The thing that I love about the Wise Guys teams is that you guys have a knack for finding the most passionate founders. They know what they're doing, they believe in what they're doing, and nothing is going to stop them.
It is really intense, I have to say, but I really enjoy it because I feel every day I'm totally evolving in this program, and I see that I have so many weapons already.
It's challenging at times. We come with a strong background of doing a lot of things at once, but it's just amazing to be next to the teams, showing all the creativity you can to help them. So it's not something you have to deliver. It's very creative work, and that's what I'm very surprised that I really like it.
I think the best of the people part always. You already know everything, but here the borders are infinite. Just so much things to learn.
One of them is the passion, and the other one is how much we care about each other. Among everything, we are a team that really likes to spend time with each other, and part of that is because we all share the mission.
Because I always had a feeling that this is the family that I have.
This is not a job, this is what we love to do. I think when you can mix that one, it's great. We just have to sometimes understand that, hey, there is more people around us, that we have to put some time for them.
For us, it was mainly like a crash course startup MBA, basically, kind of. It's kind of like a bottle of good wine, kind of that keeps getting better all the time.
I mean, Wise Guys team is what keeps me energized through everyday life. When I started working with the startup scene, Wise Guys was my kind of entryway, so I feel like it's a family. I'm like an adopted startup Wise girl.
I just remember one scene from the Tech Chill 2 months ago when you had the demo day with Swedbank. Nearly all the startups were nearly crying when they said goodbye to the mentors. They can really feel the energy, and I think culture beats everything. And I also see Wise Guys as an execution machine.
Yeah, and people ask that why do you do that? There is no money, and very many accelerators have failed after a year or two. I believe that if you really want to do it, if it's your vision, and then you just can't give up, and you will figure it out how it works.
And you have to pitch at the big stage, right?
Yes. My hands are already shaking.
It's too easy for us because this whole month startup Wise Guys, every day we preaching. It's easy for us.
Now we are only going up, and only the sky is the limit.
This is love for what we do at the end of the day, and this is our life that we want to have.
I already know that when it's over, then I'm gonna cry.
3 minutes of station, now back to work.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Quick sound check. Say hello.
Hi.
I can hear you.
Hello.
You are muted, Richard. You are muted.
I think something is wrong with the microphone.
Okay, let me kick off this Wise Guys XR last call for startups event. Hello and welcome everyone. It's our almost spontaneous backstage chat about the call, about the startups. The call we closed on Wednesday. Yesterday we had the second bootcamp, selection bootcamp, where we invited several startups to talk through with our investment committee. Today we had an investment committee, and we have chosen several teams already to join, but still there are some places open, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So basically, while our memories are still fresh, let me introduce myself. I'm Andrei Lunev, venture partner in charge of XR at Startup Wise Guys. My friend, my partner in crime, Maria Tintel, she is managing director XR program at Startup Wise Guys. And our dear head of scouting, Karina Latna, who was with us throughout those 3 months, selecting those startups, listening to the pitches, learning as much as possible about company in 5 minutes. And then she has a very long list of the questions. And finally, our very special guest today, and my dear friend, who is still muted.
No, can you hear me now?
No, yes. And
yes, we do.
Richard Ward.
30 years
Richard
of
Ward.
IT support, and I can make a microphone work.
Finally. But it's it's unusual condition. I mean, you're not in your workspace right now. And Richard Ward, enterprise lead at McKinsey, who is in charge of XR, VR, AR, and Metaverse entry market lead. So Richard's among our founding mentors in the program. So, and he's well known in our community. He's also founder of Ready Player Golf.
Which is not as successful as Ready Player Me, but I'll take what I can.
All right. So with that in mind, we also have on the backstage Daria Ogorodnik and Luis Sila, who supports our efforts. Daria is our scouting manager, and Luis is our PR and marketing guru. So with that, let me pass the mic to Karina, and she will share with us our total results. Like, how many applications, Karina, have we got?
Oh my God, okay. I feel like I am the jury of Eurovision. You know, I have to say how many people voted, but it's not Eurovision. Still, we name it internally in our backstage. We name all the investment committees actually Eurovision, because it's not only hard work, but also a lot of fun. But yeah, as for now, we have more than 160 applications, and they're still arriving, those that are applying after we close the applications. And yeah, we pre-selected more than 50 startups. And yeah, practically almost the same amount we archived because they were not relevant, unfortunately. And we already ran through 2 bootcamps. If I'm not mistaken, we got 8 plus 10, 18 teams. Let's name it. Let's say 18.
Shortlisted.
Yeah, shortlisted. Yes, and we're still in the process of selecting. So if you are having XR related, a virtual reality related startup, you still have this kind of door open. Make sure that you are applying today, latest, because we are still having all the links active, because we don't want to miss last call teams. And yeah, we got a lot of interesting teams there. I will elaborate on that later.
Just to understand the volumes, we were scouting since February, and when we were discussing, I guess last Friday, we had 110 applications in our inbox, and we were like, okay, so there's a lot of work ahead of us, but still Wednesday was our deadline for the applications. As of the end of day on Wednesday, we received 45 applications
in 24 hours.
Yes. And first off, that's a huge thank you for the push to our community. First of all, the mentors that have joined our team, that have shared about us. I am very sure a lot of those applications came exactly from that last push, but it is still possible. And that's, just saying almost in secret. We're not closing the link. Well, on Monday, it will probably be already down. But if by any chance...
Officially, it's closed. Internally, we still work.
This is backstage, right?
Yeah, this is backstage. We can say, our hidden things.
Even from those applications that we have received, there's still a lot of work ahead of us, because for us, the process is not as simple as, okay, so we review the applications and then we invite people for the selection bootcamp. It's still a lot of interview work, one-on-one due diligence calls. And if in the nearest days, dear startups, if you are among those that have applied or are planning over the weekend, if in those days we reach out to you and we ask you to set up a call with us, please take the very first opportunity to do that, because literally the train is passing.
Right. And actually, one of the things that's heartbreaking for us as a scouting team is that we have an opportunity to select only 10 teams into the program, while we see a lot of talents, interesting ideas that just haven't come up yet with a robust business case. However, our friends from Laval Virtual, Verdes, Stereopsia, and XR for Europe recently launched an amazing program which called Impulse, where different companies at different stage and could join and have sincere conversations with mentors. We will be connecting the applicants with the program and see how we can create value for the more broader community of in XR, at least in Europe. So with that in mind,
I would like to add on top of that, because we also see so many teams that still have ideas and are on pre-MVP or pre-revenue stages. We usually are, if we see potential, we invite into pre-acceleration program that we run on the equity-free of charge basis. So if you, one of those teams that applied, but actually, unfortunately or fortunately, got rejected. So please do not miss this opportunity. If we are inviting you to pre-acceleration, join it, because that will, this is an option that could give you a lot of handful connections, because we still have a lot of mentors there and a lot of knowledge and touch points with our Startup Wise Guys team members. So do not miss this opportunity, even if you're too early.
I will just add that we see quite high conversions actually for the startups that have gone through our pre-accelerator to actually further after to be selected for the program with the equity base and investment. So that is a really good way for you to sharpen your positioning and your pitch and just generally your product and approach to your market. And then it gives you an opportunity to succeed in the future steps. Plus to that, just for the general public that is watching us on different platforms, we are here to discuss all the backstage of the scouting season now that the applications are closed, but please apply
almost
if you want over the weekend. Yeah. You can ask us any questions. We are reading the comments and we will eventually come to answer a couple of interesting ones. But now, please, Andrei, take it on.
Yeah, so before we jump into XR, because for me, and I think for the audience, it would be interesting to, well, actually we can skip the general information about Startup Wise Guys and get straight to the point why we invited Richard, because Richard has been working in digital businesses, McKinsey, since ages. And at some point, he discovered for himself VR and AR as a potential to grow business opportunities. So I would love to hear, Richard, from you. Like, how do you see XR? What does it include? And is there any distinction between VR and Metaverse? Like, how do you see this space? Let's start from XR.
Yeah, so I see very much, for argument's sake, XR is the technology stack. And
right.
Metaverse is the content and the experience. And so a way to think about that is that XR is like the televisions and the network to broadcast it and the cameras to capture it, all of that stuff. But, the television show is the Metaverse. It's the content and the experiences, which, of course, we all know that there's sort of like 3 or 4 elements to this. One, there's the static environment. It's like the room behind me would be a set or a Metaverse stage, if you will, the fixed elements. And then, of course, in that, you could have things like, you could have like animations that are going on all the time because it's a dynamic system, or even having like Internet of Things data integrated where you're bringing a bunch of things. But if the humans do nothing, it will continue on its own, right?
Right.
Then you start to add people. And of course, you have the solo person who can interact with, the objects in the metaverse. And then, of course, you have all of us together interacting as this community of things. And you sort of take all of that and say, look, in sum, pulling all that together, that's kind of like the show. That's the content experience, if you will. But XR is really all of the technical capabilities required to deliver that at the end of the day. So for me, Metaverse is the human experience. XR is the technology stack to get there. I realized that we could all get into a huge fight and like talk about exactly which piece is which. This is almost like a religious battle, but it's one of those things of like, look, it doesn't really matter, because at the end, if we think about the next billion consumers that are going to like interact with Metaverse or XR, they're not going to know any of this stuff. So for example, who here actually knows how a television works, right? And it turns out it doesn't matter, right? But what it is we do care about is the content, the experience, the ability to talk to each other, and how we move on from there. And I think that that's really, for me, the differentiation between, XR as a technology stack, if you will, and Metaverse as an experience set. And so, of course, with the startups that you're looking at, some of them are very focused on building up the stack, so and putting the pieces in there, because that does need to be more efficient, lower cost, easier to access, all of those things, right? But then the creative community comes in and somebody says, look, I want to do a thing where everybody like studies for exams together, but it's all done in a world where you can actually physically manipulate the puzzles, because the exam is actually going to be puzzle solving, not a piece of paper with some words on it, and those types of things. And you say, oh, wow, that's a really interesting Metaverse experience for teams and groups and things. Who cares exactly how many, dots per inch are involved in the LiDAR capture system, and that type of thing. Now that's part of it, but you do see kind of this difference between the communities and how the value is going to be created now, and the rent distribution that goes into that. So that's why I'm really thrilled. I think that from the group of companies and the creators and the innovators that have come to Wise Guys XR, it is really a mix, I think, of people that are working on the stack and are trying to improve that, and people that are trying to really create these experiences that will be the defining elements of how we move forward.
But actually what we saw a lot of teams that are trying to create a content. So it's like one of the top 3 of topics and areas among the applications.
Right, and this is probably the main difference between XR funnel and the SaaS funnel, because in the SaaS you more or less see like teams coming up with the product, while here a lot of products are still in the phase of content or content exploration or pilot projects, and they are figuring out the way to transform this content into scalable product, like distill the product component from all the applications that you can come up with. But like in terms of the stack, I think we all agree that it includes 3D model of the environment, of the human, of the objects. Then the way to access this model through either VR glasses or augmented reality smartphone devices, or again, glasses. And then as we're talking about 3D model, there is a AI component which related to all those technologies that we're also looking at. So for instance, we had a couple applications with computer vision in our stack, and we had a hard debate to what extent we can consider them as XR, or whether it's just a video processing and that's it. Well, we'll see if they make it to the program eventually. Well, Maria, would you like to share how we come up with the program itself? Because I think what's important is the timing, because XR was around almost for this year. It will be 10 years since Oculus made this fabulous Kickstarter campaign, and then 2 years later was acquired by Facebook. So it's 8 years since Facebook acquired Oculus, but we're still talking about the potential of that technology. Why do you think the timing is good for our program?
Yeah, I was actually about to also comment on the previous notes that I think, my personal vision for this accelerator and for the future ones to come, I think one of the main things that we're missing as an industry is more of the basis of the fundamentals for all the XR related cases and businesses to start growing and creating opportunities for one another. So I feel that, you know, when we're looking at an ecosystem and the variety of platforms or SDKs and APIs that you can use as a developer toolkit or a creator toolkit, I think that's a part that we're still missing. So in reaching that like background work of us as an industry and community, I think this is also about the timing, right? Because more and more teams are working on, let's say, perfecting the technology, perfecting the UX, and looking for new applications of it in the business world, real world masses, so B2B or B2C. And for me, I guess the jewels are looking for those that will also create more pathways for the others to start stepping in. According to one of the studies from the European Commission, out of 100 businesses, 100% businesses in Europe in XR field, 90% are SMEs. So that means that we still have a long road in order to start growing this community into bigger, more sustainable businesses that, again, are creating their environment, their jobs, and then breeding the talent for the future founders and the future space of it. As for the timing, I guess one of the biggest shifts in the mindset that I saw was after COVID hit and we had to stay in isolation. So from very pessimistic, yeah, well, XR is a lot about games and just having fun activations, but it's not here yet, right? So there's still this Pokemon Go as the market standard somehow in terms of reach to the audience. And then, you know, some tries and jokes about, yeah, but yeah, it's not here. But then when we all got isolated, sitting in our own bedrooms, trying to turn it into a workspace and then also to play with kids in the same time or figure out how to spend our time and how to handle the remote work, all of a sudden, I personally started getting more and more serious conversations about, okay, so how do we actually make this work and move it further? And now, I guess we all have seen how much interest there has been from the corporate, from the larger enterprise level companies on investing into XR, different R&Ds, new hardware, new software, and creating the platforms for that. So I think there's definitely the ecosystem is ready. So now it's a question of finding the meaningful and purpose-driven businesses and start shaping them into business other than just, again, perfecting the technology itself, because that's already there. We will get the best tech and the best UX, but how do we use it? How do we make it work for good? How do we implement it into our behavior and consumption of information, both visually and in any other sensorium space where XR can bring us?
Okay, well, which brings us actually to the question: where do you see the most potential, like right now, to work out products, whether it's B2B or B2C? Richard, do you have do you use VR on daily basis or augmented reality?
I do. I'm in headset about 1 to 4 hours a day.
Okay.
And I do a mix
what's the reason?
I do a mix of 3 things. One of which is exercise. So I've lost about 3-4 kilos doing Beat Saber, Pistol Whip, and Thrill of the Fight. So just take those 3 things, and as a result, I actually canceled my gym membership during the pandemic because, of course, you couldn't go anyway, so why pay for it? But I was like, look, I now have this exercise capability to do that, and I'm looking like there's one called VR Workout now that is no controllers and allows you to do like actual push-ups and these things. So you see that you're moving into a situation where you can the human being is really, if you boil it down, you could build a model of a human being, which is a brain, plus a pair of eyes plus a pair of hands, because about 80% of the inputs to the brain come from the eyes, and about 40 to 60% of the control signals are going to your hands. And so you'd say, right, if I feed signals into the eyes and then I'm monitoring the reactions of the hands, right, you build a really good system for that. And so
and that's already in place, right?
Right, that's already in place, and that's where these things kind of like work very effectively. And so that's exercise. The other one is I do quite a bit of projects with clients where we review things that are being built for XR, and we kind of hop in together, like using, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Shapes XR, XR Shapes, Inga's product. I mean, it's a great product for that. You can get together and with clients and rapidly build storyboards and experiences to then get everybody to agree on what the developer should build. And then finally, the last games. I play Population 1. I'm at level 59. It's taken me 18 months to get there. I have only another, 400,000 points to go to get to level 60. But I think the part of it there that if that's what you see on kind of like the consumer side of things, what you see on the work side of things, the enterprise side of things, really is vocational training, blue collar training. And this is a very important thing. XR, remember my model of is it's eyes, brain, hands, right? Video is eyes, brains. You don't need a body. You can sit there in a chair and watch, who hasn't sat there and watched a movie like this for 3 hours straight? Because video is really just eyes and brain, but XR is the hands. And so from an enterprise standpoint, you see that things like teaching people how to do maintenance, teaching people how to do processes. So you must flick this switch, then take this wire, then this wire, not that wire, this wire, those types of processes where people need to learn the muscle memory. XR is an excellent technology for that. And you're starting to see multiple areas, one of which is, for example, like militaries. The United States military pretty much has decided to go VR first to train people how to use things because they've just gotten the times down, like from 18 weeks down to like 10 weeks, right? And so anyway, it's all these great examples of things where you do need to find the use case that jumps into it, and it brings things together and focus on what it's good at. Don't try and replicate what the other mediums are good at. So a good example of this is that when television first came out, all of the networks that owned that did television were the radio networks, because radio was first. And so the very first television shows, they actually took their radio shows and they just put a camera in front of people in front of a microphone doing the radio show, which made horrible television, right? And then the flip side
it reminds during all the conferences during pandemic.
Exactly, it makes horrible television, right? So all of us right now are like mini television studios. I mean, think about it. In order to have this conversation, we're in 4 different places. We're all on synchronous video. We can have millions of people log in. In order to do that 15, maybe 20 years ago, we would all have to go to a television studio and use a satellite uplink and use millions of dollars worth of equipment to make it happen. And what is it? It's free. We just click on a link and you get it for free. And so it moves these things forward. And that's the part where you kind of have to get this understanding of, hey, let's use what it's good for, which is input, output, right? Capture, calculate, recycle. Keep doing that. And those are the things where you find these XR experiences that are transformative and beyond what you can do with Zoom, basically, right? Or video or those sorts of things. But to finish the story, the killer app for television was something that you cannot do on radio, which was physical comedy. So slapstick comedy and those types of things, because it was such a visual medium that if you only broadcast the audio, people are like, I have no idea what's going on. Why is everybody laughing?
Only slap doesn't work.
But it's but in a visual medium, and so Marshall McLuhan, of course, said that the medium is the message, right? And so I think that for XR, we're still figuring out exactly how do you create the media that is XR native, that does things that only XR can do.
I think it's very important topic, like to distinguish the features that can be done only in virtual reality. And basically, if you can do something without virtual reality or without augmented reality, then you're better off not touching VR at all. But when it comes to VR in those vocational trainings, because we had a lot of use cases, and I think Karina had a very hard time talking with those companies, because guys, you're creating a content or a game. How are you going to sell it? Karina, would you like to share some of the most lucid examples?
Yeah, there were a lot of examples. Actually, I would like to not give just raw examples. I would like to sum up a bit what was interesting, what was different in comparison to other verticals that we work with before. First of all, I would like to jump back to the things that Richard was saying, and what was surprising, that top 5 of let's say directions when we saw the biggest number of applicants were 100% physical. Like, you cannot imagine, for example, professional football players being online, or education. Everyone is telling, people and kids should always visit physical on-site schools. Like, no, it's not working. So actually, education, health tech, sports, tourism, and real estate. Then real estate is obvious. Like, okay, let's put it aside. But still, what was interesting that we saw many quite well-developed solutions in sport, specifically in professional sport training. So this is what Richard was saying, that you have to train this muscle memory. And based on the information that teams were providing, based on their observation, it works. It gives results. Of course, it's obvious that any kind of AR, VR technology could be used in education, but still, this niche is so untapped, and there is a lot of content creators that are dying to put somewhere their content, to actually make it usable and give it, move forward with sharing it and selling it. And there are many things in healthcare that are happening right now that are already, that the whole healthcare system actually already says, yeah, maybe we can try it, maybe we can use it. Because even 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, the whole industry was so defensive toward any AR, VR, extended reality related things. So right now we see that trends are changing, and people's mindset, especially after pandemic, the way their approach is changing, which is interesting to observe. And maybe Maria would like to add something on the things we saw.
The things we saw. Well, I think my biggest fear before we were starting the scouting season, and we were just still planning the program, was to see all the Metaverse startups, if you know what I mean.
A lot of random bullshit buzzwords. Yes, we were so afraid.
But we saw many very interesting applications, and probably the thing that was super exciting for me is to see that startups are learning how to focus and how to look for a very specific niche, a very specific problem, and address just that. I cannot overestimate how important that is for XR, because in the last 4 years I've been working here in this industry. Oh my God, the level of generic things that people are coming up with is just unimaginable. And so this
time, the level of generic things was actually super low.
Yes, and well, first off, you're probably good at sorting, and we probably delivered the message to the right audiences for us to actually look for those innovators and front runners of the XR in the early stage. I was thinking that maybe we would like to share some of the insights from the pipeline, so called. Would you like to maybe
Without
talk
naming
about?
names.
Yeah. Well, but maybe it's interesting to see what are the subcategories that we have been looking
Meanwhile,
at.
we
Yeah,
are
so
sharing
Louise, if you
subcategories.
can,
Yeah.
if you allow me to share the screen, I can share like the very rough document.
Meanwhile, you are sharing. I would like to ask all the people, that, like attendees that are listening, or pretend that they're listening your conversation. Please shoot any questions or comments here, because we would like to have this kind of conversation, not among us. So maybe you are curious about how our internal selection process goes. Yeah, analytics. Who cares about analytics? But anyway, maybe you have something. You will have some questions. So
well,
write it in the chat, please.
Well, it's still, I think, interesting to see that only third was rejected like quite fast, because it was immature, and it was clear from the application that it's not mature. But we still had some exchange with every team, I think, through Theodoros and Daria. At least we responded.
Practically, and some of them we were transferring to other programs. To other programs, to pre-acceleration programs. So we usually, when we do selection, we are not aiming just to reject team if team is too early or doesn't fit this specific vertical. We are always seeking for any kind of next step, either if they are too early. We are offering them pre-acceleration, or if they are not exactly will potentially not benefit from this program, we are offering them to take a look at sustainability, at fintech, SaaS, something else, cyber at some point. Because people are applying, not in every case precisely, sometimes they just randomly apply. But anyway, I would say the overall quality of applications was really good and really high. And what, again, as Maria mentioned, we were afraid that we will receive a lot of B2C random general stuff, but the amount of well narrowed down with the problem, with the in alignment with the solution startups was B2B startups was extremely high. And that was like one of the biggest surprises.
Right.
Yeah, and if I may, to like, because it's my area, actually my numbers that my lovely colleagues prepared for me. I would like to also say something about geographies. What was surprising for me, because we always observe there are some countries that are always leaders in some specific areas, and there are some countries that are good or bad at something. It doesn't mean that countries are good or bad at something. That means the startups are having more mature products or less mature because of the ecosystem that they are living in. And we were actually really surprised that we see a lot of applicants from United States. Not all of them are purely like residents of United States. Some of them are registering companies there. But yes, definitely there is a big interest from that side. And I think United States is showing more interest toward this direction. And what was pure surprise is Turkey. We didn't expect that so many great teams will actually will apply from this country. And also what was for me especially, what was a surprise is Spain. And just give me 1 second. And Germany. Quite surprised areas, geographies that usually are applying to more, let's say, Spain is not interested in acceleration at all, as we see based on our observation. But Germany, the startups from Germany are usually applying more for fintech and fintech. They build more fintech related products. Yeah, and also you see like a lot of teams also from yeah. Thank you for showing that, from African continent. I think it's just the beginning. I think the penetration of the technologies, like top-notch technologies, and on African continent right now is booming. So I think next time we will see even more applications from those areas. And yeah, Maria, Andrei, maybe you would like to add something on that.
Well, I think, yeah, United States is relatively non-representative because many European companies establishing their road to market through to US through having an entity, a legal entity in the United States. And also bear in mind that this is preliminary results. So we will dig into analytics, and like 50 teams are still not classified. Like we didn't structure them yet because we didn't have time, just received the application. I want to also remind everyone who listening in that we're still accepting applications until Monday evening. And beside that, I wanted to acknowledge like several applications that were made by single founders. We really appreciate your efforts. Being single founder is super challenging, and I can't stress this enough. We'll try to figure out whether we can, like, at least have a separate event where we just put you in the same room and probably connect you to each other, which also help you probably to form a team, because like that's a big barrier in terms of being single founder. How do I find someone who will share my idea and go with that? So that's something that I would consider. Beside that, yeah, I think there was a lot of sources of applications, people, networks. So it's not someone who delivered all. It was a lot of individual contributions, and I want to say a huge thank you to the community, to mentors, to XR Crowd, to LinkedIn community, who supported our call, who shared applications, who pointed founders, because founders is a very rare species in the community. It's like very few people dare to become a startup founder because it's very challenging. And thanks for sharing this information with them. We'll try to make our best to contribute some value to everyone who applied.
If you don't mind, Maria, I would like you to go to the mentors page, because this is a special thank you. And I will never be able to express how much I admire the people that are ready to give back to the community and become the people that guide others towards making better applications of the technology and grow their businesses on it. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined this page. You can see them on our website, and these are the people that our teams will get to meet and brainstorm with. Richard, do you mind if I ask you, why do you mentor? Why do you think this is an important part of anyone's business identity?
Fundamentally, I want everybody to win. Right? I mean, it's a very simple concept, which is that, hey, if you make the pie bigger, quite honestly, everybody kind of gets to win to a certain extent, right? There of course will be consolidations, and some win more than others, and those sorts of things. But it's very challenging to get past that. And I find that for me, like I was saying earlier, I mean, that concept of time in the market versus timing the market. And as such, helping and people that want to work on these things, they need to be supported. They need to be provided guidance. Sometimes they need to be given bad news, right? That's part of the way this works. And I see, the technology world and the XR community has been very kind to me over the years. And so I just kind of see it as a way for me to give back. So that's like the, hey, Richard's a nice guy version. Here's the Richard's like, self-interested version. Being able to like talk to all these startups at an early stage, I know more than anybody else in the areas that I work by being exposed to people that are really working on cutting edge ideas and those kinds of things. And that helps me stay very current and ahead of a lot of the people that I have to deal with and that sort of thing. And, I like to be smarter than Andre, basically, because he and we fight all the time. And so I always want to know one more thing than Andre does. And so that's why I did this. So I could at least, always have one more thing to say than Andre.
Well, you always do, actually, like just follow your thoughts. Yeah, nothing to add here. Karina?
What to add on top of that?
Okay, so yeah, I got myself together. Meet our new page for like where we included our mentors. We're still kind of connecting with mentors and adding them to the page. So please, if you feel that you have time and willingness to share your experience with community, we're happy to have you on board. There is some application, relatively simple application process.
Only 30 questions.
No. Yeah. So
how about let me be honest, half of them is not compulsory, but we are keeping an eye. If you guys are not filling in the non-compulsory question, that's like score is
we want
slowing down.
Keep this mentor pool diverse, but still very XR specific, because like the entire community of Startup Wise Guys mentors includes investors, mentors, coaches, founders themselves who coach other startups or on relevant matter. But XR is quite specific topic, so we want to keep and highlight that community as a dedicated community to those startups. So yeah, Maria, shall we move into the questions, or do you have something to share?
We have something. Yeah, we have some questions there.
Since we're talking about our mentors, actually, I would like to highlight the question from Gregory, who is a mentor of this upcoming program. We're starting on June 6th. Very soon, you will start meeting the teams. So the question is, are any interesting links between XR and blockchain in projects? I can start by saying that there has been quite some applications, especially when the teams want to highlight all the hype words of metaverse, blockchain, tokenomics, and so on and so forth. But maybe I would love to hear some feedback from the dear people that are on the stream. What did you see during the season, and how are your impressions?
I would like to briefly add on top of that. Honestly, I didn't see any really interesting projects or startups that are using blockchain now yet. Of course, maybe they didn't mention, but there are many other buzzwords was put on the table. But I think this is just the beginning, because honestly, we opened applications like 12 weeks ago. It's just the start. I don't think that we will just close application and that's it. We will see more and more people still randomly applying on our general funnel. But as for now, not yet. But I would like to say that what was interesting, that there was a quite decent amount of startups that are considering to be data company. Like they actually, they're backed by data, and they keep an eye on collecting, analyzing, and looking on the experience through the data. And that was interesting. So they are more data oriented than just the blockchain and any NFT, something else. You choose things there in their products.
Yeah, but I think Richard has his opinion on NFT, which I really appreciate. In a sense, like when it comes to the data contribution, I think there is a room for NFT or data contribution or creative contribution, because kind of if your data or content is going to be reused in the future and you want to keep track of that, that's something interesting to consider. Richard, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two separate things here. So number one, just as a definition standpoint, right? I think we need to get rid of the word NFT, because and for the following reason. If you take the technologies associated with NFTs, it's mostly associated with things like monkey pictures and speculation on art and all that sort of stuff. But if you think about what the technology really does, so when you go to a store and you buy something, they give you a piece of paper. That piece of paper is called a receipt, right? And when you go back to the store 2 weeks later and say, hey, this thing's broken, I want another one, what do they ask for? They ask for the receipt. Because for the organization, the receipt is the record that really matters, right? And on the receipt, there's a variety of linkages that tie it all together. So my name is on the receipt, how much I paid for it, which object is it, all of those things. So if you think about NFT technology as actually a universal receipt system, now you're really talking about something interesting, because the receipt could be for an airplane ticket. It could be for a burrito. It could be for an avatar t-shirt. It could be for a whole bunch of things. And so you have the ability for people to have a kind of a transactional commerce based off of a universal receipt system, right? So let's take that as kind of like, if I had one magic wand wish, it's let's rename NFTs universal receipt system. And then I think everybody will stop talking about monkey pictures and get rich quick. And it's like a development technology, right? But now here's the second.
Agree on that.
Okay, but now we've got that. Let's say, okay, well, if there was a universal receipt system and there was all that stuff, does it really solve the major problems that we have with this? Okay. And here's the problem we have with this. There's only about 10 million of these out there. I mean, that's a really small, tiny market. It's not worth getting. That's like, I always tell everybody, that's like your market entry strategy for Liechtenstein. You know, it's like nobody gets super excited about that market, you know? And so then you say, well, if we need to get from 10 million to 50 million to 100 million to a billion, what are the problems that this device, you know, AR devices, all of them have? And it falls into what we call the 3 C's. Number one is comfort. They're too heavy. They make your eyeballs sweaty. They make some people vomit, which is just not a great feature for a consumer product, right? The second C is content. There's just not enough to do. I mean, look, each of us can spend like 10 hours a day scrolling through TikToks and LinkedIn profiles, stuff like that, and writing emails. And I mean, there's just a lot of content. You can waste 18 hours a day on this little 4-inch piece of glass. There's really not 18 hours worth of in-headset stuff. So we need more content. And then finally, the last thing is the cost. So we all know that Meta, Zuck, don't hit me, is like subsidizing the cost of this. This is really like a $600 to $700 piece of equipment, right? But it's a feature incomplete piece of equipment, because you'll see like mine, I've added, you know, we all know that they're face heavy. So I've added like the battery that balances the weight factor on it. And also the battery here only really lasts maybe 1 hour when you're doing something like really intensive. So this at least doubles or triples it, right? Now, by the way, you'll notice I wear glasses. So I spent more money on these things, right? Lens inserts. So in order to even get this version to a level where it's actually feature complete, as good as it's going to get, you move from like $300, say the unsubsidized cost is $600, add, we're about maybe $900 to $1,000. And we know that it's incomplete, right? It doesn't have the face tracking cameras, the eye tracking cameras. It doesn't have like the controllers that do this, that, or the other. And you're like, okay, so probably like the mobile XR headset that we really want probably costs $1,500 to $2,000, right? Unsubsidized. So that's too expensive. There's no way you're going to get to 1 billion users at $2,000 a unit. So the 3 C's: comfort, content, cost. Now we go back to the universal receipt system. What does Web3 technology do about these? Well, it's not going to do anything about comfort. right? I mean, doesn't matter how many zombie ape pictures you've got, it's not going to make the thing lighter or like not make people vomit, right? Then you look at content. You say, well, maybe Web3 is a way to generate a significant amount of user-generated content, so it could work for that, right? If the economics and all these things work out. And then finally, you get to cost. Well, an argument could be made that maybe Web3 is a way to raise the funds to put into the R&D to keep pushing the costs lower and lower and lower. But I would also say, you know what else works? Money. So why don't we just, and that's partly why Zuckerberg is, standing in front of his investors and saying, we are going to spend $10 billion a year on this. Put your seatbelts on, right? I mean, and we're going to have to do this for like a decade. And you say, well, that's like $100 billion. It's like, and he's like,
yeah,
we're going to have to do that. So when you look at like where Web3 is going to put this stuff in and all these things, again, not going to solve the comfort problem, could help with the content problem. They'll tell you it helps with the cost problem, but quite honestly, you probably need real money just to go directly move in there. And so you see these opportunities where let's be clear about where Web3, where blockchain technologies can have impact on the real problems that we have in XR today versus maybe some kind of marketing-based messages about these things. And I'll get off my soapbox. By the way, my kids say that I've done an Obama when I do that,
What does it mean?
Oh, he likes to give speeches. You ask you ask like a one-sentence question, you get like a 30-minute speech with 4 bullet points. And the important thing to understand is what happened at like the Treaty of Versailles when it's like, okay, I just want to know what's for dinner, Dad.
Okay. Well, but that's brings us to the point that probably for the consumer adoption, VR is still quite early. And actually, like our B2B focus is absolutely justified because in the enterprise environment, and I remember your example about helicopter in the room, in my room right here, that I can bring with only $300 device. That would make any ROI calculation justified for any enterprise. That's why we have chosen, like speaking of timing, B2B direction. But speaking of their content, I recently stumbled, and I'm actually 100% agree that the main content, that the most interesting content for the human being is another human being. That's why actually, and that content now created. Like we are creating it for free just by being present on those social platforms like Altspace, VR Chats, Horizon, if anyone is there, because it's closed beta only for United States so far. So but that content, if someone would give me an NFT for being present in VR, I would probably be more often to the golf tournaments and to the social fitness in virtual reality. So I can see some use cases there, which are relatively easy to be implemented. But what we were looking for in the startups is that people don't come up with just generic solution for, okay, I'm going to have a virtual club in virtual reality and cross-platform and blah, 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 and we will have a nice music over there. But show me the way how you get on board super early adopters. Show me that you can identify a very specific niche segment that will go about it and be present even on 2D screen, because most of the VR experiences, they are actually now available only on 2D screen. And so inside us, we call it 2.5D when you join this virtual space. But please, startup founders, you need to justify and identify why people would go there and spend the time now, not in the 5 years. I believe in 5 years, they will be there. But I want to see 100 or 1,000 people, just 1,000 people who would go there on the regular basis, and you start experimenting with them. Because whatever roadmap you lay out in your deck is irrelevant after the 3 months of testing with actual user. So it's nice to have it, because we need to understand that you kind of have this vision, but what's more important is your ability to identify like your current focus. I don't know, probably Karina has something to do with that, to add here, because she was the most toughest person.
I'm sorry, I was not listening last of your sentence, because I was reading actually the last questions that are popping up in the chat, and I was I have a couple of examples. Sorry, Andrei.
So I didn't mean to expose you, but if someone wants to add here, Maria.
I think that just generally there is a very interesting conversation happening there. I think from the content standpoint, Alvar is have made a very interesting comment that we need the paradigm change, because right now on the content side, IP owners often don't want their content to be shared and used in other realities or external in theirs. And I think that's definitely something that we as an industry have to overcome. That's just the maturity level, let's say, of the common conscious that we have as the vertical, and also the presence of the necessary tool set for that change to happen within the extended reality or the metaverses and so on. One of the interesting aspects that we were also discussing, and I would love to see more ideas around, that's me talking to the startups, is also the ethics and morals behind what we're creating by using, by creating a much more extended realities, and just generally the metaverses, whatever it is that is going to happen. So how do we create this, not only the space that is technologically interesting, so we can do all the cool features there, but just like you said, the most interesting content for a human being is another human being. So how do we make this a safe space for people to have for their self-expression and for driving the creativity, collaboration, and interesting interaction points, instead of going into this dystopian world where this is the place for bullies or let's say cybercrime, maybe even in the forms that we don't know about. So I think that also safety in XR in all sorts of its representation is a very interesting topic for us to discuss, and definitely will be something that I will be raising among my startups that are getting to be chosen a lot, because the purpose and the why means a lot. And while we can work a lot on technological advances, where are we moving with this as a digital nation, as an XR natives for the future generations? How does it shape the way that we interact as human beings and as digital beings?
Yeah, and I think there's one thing on interoperability that people need to. We need to be kind of honest about this, right? In the real world, you're also not allowed to do whatever you want, right? And a perfect example is I cannot walk into a casino with my own deck of cards. I can't say, hey, I've got these 5 aces that I bought at the dime store next door, and I want to go into the casino and I want to play with those. Right? The casino will go, no, that's not how that works. We also happen to know that you cannot go into a movie theater with 2 big buckets of chicken and a bottle of vodka, right? They're like, no, that's not how it works. We make our money off of selling the popcorn and the candy. It's part of the business model, right? And so, you're going to find that there's going to be this kind of ebb and flow, right, between those that their business model is based on how they make their money based on what they're selling. And then that will dictate whether people are more or less open to, let's say, outside content coming into the system. Now, you could have that, for example, and Fortnite's an excellent example. Fortnite is free to play. You're getting billions of dollars worth of content without paying a penny. And it's completely voluntary if you want to buy the skins, right? Now, why would they ever allow people to bring free skins into Fortnite, right? I mean, the business model is we give you all this billions all over the content. When you like it, you pay for things, right? And so, part of the bet that's being made is that the next generation of games will use these things like Ready Player Me, and then it will leapfrog and become the next Fortnite, and then that becomes part of the infrastructure and those things. But it's, but may or may not happen, And then the other part of it, I think also that people are kind of not really listening or understanding how the content business works, the creator business works, is that there was an excellent Medium post last week that was talking about the book business, and that actually your average publisher when they invest in, they pay money out to invest in 10 books, 7 of them do not make their money back. 2 of them break even, and 1 of them needs to make enough money to pay for the other 9 that did not pay for it, right? And so one of the things I think we get into this creators are getting ripped off argument is, well, yes and no, because it could be a case of that, like the reason that you're not making every single penny once you've become successful is because they've got to pay for everybody else who's not successful yet. And so I do think we need a bit more of an honest conversation about that in many ways, creating content is not that expensive. The marketing and getting attention and the network effects that are associated with it for you to become successful actually are very expensive. And so who's going to pay for what, and how does it all come together? And yet, for example, I've not heard or seen like a really compelling Web3 system that's going to solve that problem. It's all very focused on kind of like the creator side of things. I want everybody to win. I want everybody to have lots of money, right? But I also happen to know that, like, look, there's parts of this stuff where you're sort of like, set this variable equal to 1 and keep moving. And it's like, well, you can't set that variable to 1.
I think the DAO and the Web3 is very powerful thing, but many people confuse them with the company, while I think it's rather a trade union or guild, when people can actually have a leverage against platform, like being creators. And this is how it could work again. But like when, again, startup come up with an idea and say, okay, we are going to create DAO. Okay, guys, like, how are you going to benefit as a business from creating DAO around your product? You either cheating with your basically members, or you are not going to make viable business out of it. So this is very tricky. Yeah, but I think we can save that topic for further meetings here. I really like this live chat. Let's check on questions if we have any in the chat that we can address. Yeah, I see this conversation that you had. Oh, OnlyFans. Oh my God. Well,
that was the question that actually disturbed me, like switched my attention.
Okay. So we haven't seen many dating applications yet. Couples. Yeah, couple.
I would say we've seen 2 businesses that are having this dating component, but they are not straightforward dating and not even close to OnlyFans direction. But I would say this is something that will appear, and it will be one of the must-have features. As you correctly mentioned, Andre, about the most interesting thing for people is like, for human is human. So in the future, every platform, every as we saw just like a couple of days ago, environment, like extended environment for concerts, for any kind of gatherings, will have this as one of the must-have features. So I would say, I would suggest Tinder, Bumble, and all the main players on this dating market already think about how they will create something like a layer that is crossing through all the solutions already available in the market, and that will be available in the next future. It will come, but luckily or unluckily, we didn't see many of them.
Okay, Luis, could you share my screen, please? Because on that note, I want actually to emphasize this program Impulse, which is actually exactly about dating, but business dating. So when you I urge everyone to apply, to join the program, be part of those beautiful events and that community that addresses businesses, startups, art, and researchers. It's a new initiative by XR for Europe, and I think it will have a huge impact on the European landscape. But please do join this community. Then I think we are about to wrap up our conversation. And as a last question to the audience, like if we missed something, please type it now in the chat. We'll try to address probably some quick questions. So I see last question from Noridin. What about marketing subjects in VR and Metaverse? Luis, could you put this question on? And yeah. So, Richard, do you want to take this one?
Actually, I'm not entirely sure what the question is. What do you think the question is?
I think it's about what are we going to advertise in the Metaverse and what kind of audiences we can expect there that are different from radio. Like you mentioned before, like the difference between radio and TV. Was it the difference in terms of marketing materials that were distributed across radio and TV station? Like, have you, like, I would say, I would be curious to learn about that. Like,
well, so I mean, so obviously, yeah. You know, banner advertising in 3D, everybody immediately jumps to that. So, but it's the same thing as you see in like games, right? I mean, if you go play FIFA or if you play, you know, if you play any of the 2.5D games, they're full of 3D banner ads, right? But I think the more interesting thing is, again, if you remember, I think that XR is about the hands. Is that, are we going to see like a new language of marketing that comes into things like, you know, and maybe like this Wendyverse thing is an example of like, hey, whoever can make a hamburger the fastest gets a coupon to go buy a real one, or those types of things, you know, or I don't know, whatever, those types of things. And so I do think that there's going to be like a new language about interaction. And so I think people that do things like currently have on-site activation experience, you know, street guerrilla marketing and all that kind of stuff. For them, it's probably an ability to transfer some of the learnings for what does and does not work when you're trying to get people to do something rather than just look at something and read it. And that'll probably like create an entire, you know, new vocabulary and capabilities in, you know, as we move forward.
Well, for me, marketing in VR and Metaverse, it's marketing of objects. So basically, it's product placement in the context. And I think AdMix nailed it. So they entered the place through gaming, but this is exactly how you place your objects in the context. Like you just, yeah, you can have this product placement in the video, but it's it's difficult to replace the object in the real-time video. But when it comes to the interactive animation and objects, like it's easy. Like those people will see Coke, those Pepsi, that part of the world will see Orangina or something like that.
I would almost challenge you on that one because I think that's still the level of video. So the product placement takes place in all the movies and series, and it's not always the straightforward advertisement. It's just the telephone that you're using in the series or something like that. I think XR can go even further, and it will be about customer relationships, customer success, the service that you're providing, but within the immersive experiences and within the tool set that is available for you. So I think the product placement is just one of the first things. So it's this analog radio format, right? Yeah. I think that we kind of are coming to the finale of this stream. I would like to just once again talk to you about the general terms of what's happening. So Wise Guys XR is looking for the 10 best teams in SaaS B2B space. We currently have closed the applications, but if you're still applying within the weekend, we will consider you. The program starts in June. We will have it in hybrid format, and parts of it will be online, but the offline part will be happening in Spain, in a beautiful city of Malaga, where we have quite an interesting XR community and just digital community that we will try to explore within the conferences and events that are happening here. We have an amazing set of mentors backing us during this program. We're still looking for amazing experts that will be a part of our XR journey. And we will probably come back to you with the new program announcements somewhere by the end of this year, but let's see.
And I would like encourage even idea stage and early stage teams also apply. If you think that you're not ready for acceleration, still apply. Let's stay in touch. We're usually we have this approach. We're like creating long-term relationships with the startups, and we will keep an eye on your startup, even if right now you are too early, but who knows? Maybe you will just the right fit in 3, 6, and 9 months from now, and you will be in a perfect shape to jump into another acceleration, the next one.
Yeah, that's a great place to wrap up. I think, thank you so much, audience. Richard, thanks for joining. We opened up so many interesting topics, which we can unpack probably in our future conversations, but I think now we need to wrap up it. And Luis, probably Maria, Karina, Richard, any final conclusions?
No, just thank you very much for just letting me talk and talk and talk. I mean, I'll expand like a gas if you give me time. So
no, we were trying to interrupt you as much as we could.
Very kind, so.
No, thank you so much.
We'll bring the audience next time.
I'm looking forward to this program, and I'm sure we will find amazing founders to work with. Challenge us. Be sure we will challenge you.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. And look forward to Karina's questions in the...
Oh, yeah. She's amazing with
speech
that.
day. Yeah.
You will suffer.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
This is it. And see you online in the Metaverse, online in VR, online on the webpage. Luis, thank you so much for supporting us. Please, the video.
Right. The thing that I love about the Wise Guys team is that you guys have a knack for finding the most passionate founders. They know what they're doing, they believe in what they're doing, and nothing is going to stop them.
It is really intense, I have to say, but I really enjoy it because I feel every day I'm totally evolving in this program, and I see that I have so many weapons already.
It's challenging at times. We come with a strong background of doing a lot of things at once, but it's just amazing to be next to the teams, showing all the creativity you can to help them. So it's not something you have to deliver. It's very creative work, and that's what I'm very surprised that I really like it.
I think the best of the people part always. You already know everything, but here the borders are infinite. Just so much things to learn.
One of them is the passion, and the other one is how much we care about each other. Among everything, we are a team that really likes to spend time with each other, and part of that is because we all share the mission.
Because I always had the feeling that this is the family that I have.
This is not a job, this is what we love to do. I think when you can mix that one, it's great. We just have to sometimes understand that, hey, there is more people around us, that we have to put some time for them.
For us, it was mainly like a crash course startup MBA, basically, kind of. It's kind of like a bottle of good wine, kind of that keeps getting better all the time.
I mean, Wise Guys team is what keeps me energized through everyday life. When I started working with the startup scene, Wise Guys was my kind of entryway, so I feel like it's a family. I'm like an adopted startup Wise girl.
I just remember one scene from the Tech Chill 2 months ago when you had the demo day with Swedbank. Nearly all the startups were nearly crying when they said goodbye to the mentors. They can really feel the energy, and I think culture beats everything. And I also see Wise Guys as an execution machine.
Yeah, and people ask that why do you do that? There is no money, and very many accelerators have failed after a year or two. I believe that if you really want to do it, if it's your vision, and then you just can't give up, and you will figure it out how it works.
And you have to pitch at the big stage, right? Yes. My hands are already shaking.
It's too easy for us because this whole month startup wise guys, every day we preaching. It's easy for us.
Now we are only going up, and only the sky is the limit.
This is love for what we do at the end of the day, and this is our life that we want to have.
I already know that when it's over, then I'm gonna cry.
3 minutes of station, now back to work.